the whole, and it's not you, it's most women today that I end up talking to. And if you go back to the other ladies nights panel, like you'll see a few of these gals too. It's like they're drunk on the Kool-Aid of toxic feminism. I don't know if you know what toxic feminism is.
What is toxic feminism?
Would you describe yourself as a feminist? Like, do you think that you're into that sort of stuff?
I don't like to go based off of labels. I would describe myself as someone who supports men just as much as I support women.
Okay. Do you, like, when you hear, I don't know, what would be a good example? Like, how does the word patriarchy sit with you? Do you think we live in a patriarchy or do we live in a matriarchy?
I think we live in an archy. I don't know. Like, there's different areas for different things. I think you can see a little bit of both depending on.
What do you see clearly?
It really depends on the field. In healthcare, it's very women dominated. I think in general, for businesses, you're going to see more patriarchy with males more likely to be CEOs of companies and in exec positions. When it comes to finances, I think that the nuclear family is built on the patriarch idea.
Because I mean, the thing that's in the blind spots of a lot of gals your age and mostly a little bit older, like it's usually by about 34, 35, 36 or so. It's like there's a painted picture of this guy that they want. And that same guy that you want is looking at girls Aubrey's age, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like, it's easy for them to date those girls because they got their shit together. They have money. They're captivating. They can invite girls like Aubrey into their life and be like, hey, we're going on the boat this weekend. You want to bring a few friends and come? They're going to invite her and her friends before they invite you and your friends. Right. And that's not to like disparage anybody. That's just to get to the reality of what drives attraction between the sexes. Because men and women peak at different parts in their life, right? Like, do you understand the differences between the sexual market value peak between men and women, or is it the same in your mind?
Is there like a big difference between you and your girlfriend in age, or?
I don't get into those details. Like, I don't tell people my age, but I say 7 to 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. She's younger than me by 7 to 15 years. Yeah. Now,
most men are looking for someone who's under 30.
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, if I was single, I probably wouldn't even date in 40. I'd probably date 40 and under, probably 20 to 40, and realistically probably younger than 40, to be honest with you. But that's the differences, between men and women. Like, where do you think women peak in their sexual marketplace value as far as their attraction and value to men? Like, where do you see that peak for you? Or does it just follow you sort of as you go through life?
I mean, I think that there is attraction with age as well. I've always been someone to date older. So.
But I mean, women typically do date older. They usually date older guys. Aubrey's with an older guy. Jessica, is your husband older or younger?
Older.
Gia, is your husband older or younger?
Older.
Older, right? So most women typically date older than their own age. Again, usually 7 to 10 years is within range for women. 5 to 10 years, someone will say 3 to 5 years, right? But it's generally always older, right? So there's that. But I mean, like, where do you think women peak, or is there a peak for women?
I mean, I think I'm only continuing to peak, but I don't think that there's really a time when women age out. That's just me.
Okay. Do you think there's a time when men age out? I got called old last week by one of the panelists.
I think when you're seeing someone who's the same age as you or around your same age, that's what I mean by, like, there's not really a time when you're not going to view someone the same age as you as having passed their peak, I guess.
Yeah, so toxic feminism is like that Kool-Aid that women are drunk on, which, like, gets into climb the corporate ladder, get a career. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Men and women are equal. I mean, if men and women are equal, then why did this Lydia or Linda, whatever her name was, that was a man, 462 in the professional swimming championship with men, suck so badly and then decide to compete with women and came in first place and took all of their medals, right? You've probably heard about this dude, in the news. So, men and women are very, very different. And I think that one of the great lies that toxic feminism tells women is that men and women are the same. Uh, it's funny because it tells women that we're both the same, but then it also sells like some sort of victim mindset to women. Like a lot of women will be like, well, if the patriarchy wouldn't be oppressing women and paying them 78 cents on a dollar for every dollar that a man makes, blah, blah, blah. Like those are some of the lines. Right. And I don't think that you're drunk on that Kool-Aid, but I think there's certain elements of it. Like, well, tattoos are like a masculine pursuit, like a masculine trait, and they always have been for a very long time. And it's only in recent history now that women start getting tattoos. Right. And it's like, that's kind of a masculine, pursuit. But now we have women doing it, sort of thing. So there's a few of those things that I see elements. And it's like, you can't do anything about it, right? Like, I remember we had this gal on once. I think she was in her 50s and she was tattooed from like head to toe. And I asked her, I said, do you regret any of this? And she's like, yeah, it was stupid. It was a really bad move. And I've been disqualified by a lot of men because of my tattoos.
I haven't had that. So
you'll get it if you keep going.
Okay.
But I mean, there's lots of guys out there that will look past stuff like that today still. Right. But they're generally not the kind of guys that you want to be in a long-term relationship with and travel with and stuff like that. Again, the guy that you're describing, like that perfect guy for you, I talk to this guy a lot. He's very successful. He's got his shit together. And he's looking past a lot of the qualities that you carry with you that he wouldn't be interested in. For example, like, if he wants to have kids, he's going to pass on you. He'll lay with you, he'll sleep with you, but he's going to move on like once he does.
A lot of guys in this space obsess really quick. Like a lot of guys in this space obsess over this like age 30 kind of thing. And so, I mean, the problem is that what's not being sold to a lot of women is that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Yeah.
Women don't just turn 30 and become, they talk about, there's this concept of the wall where people think, oh, you smash into the wall and you become ugly. That's not what that means. It essentially means, are you getting the same amount of attention for some people, the wall is 27. For some people, it's 37. Generally speaking, though, it's around, early 30s. But are you getting the same amount of attention from men, or are you getting the attention from the quality of men in your maybe early 30s and you were in your early 20s? And on balanced probabilities, most likely the answer to that is going to be no. But it's not because women just overnight go from carriages to pumpkins. It's because many of them are being told to spend their 20s smoking, drinking, doing drugs, partying, letting dozens, if not hundreds of guys run through them. And then that eventually catches up to them to a point where, well, now they're really starting to feel those effects. It's like hangovers. Like when you're 21, 22, like you can go and slam 2 dozen drinks down and then the next morning wake up and do it again. And, a couple of years later, you have 2 or 3 drinks and you're on the couch for the next 24, 48 hours in some cases. And so that's sort of where that feminist sort of brainwashing comes into play, where it's telling women to chase all of these fruitless pursuits, thinking that it's not going to affect them later in life. They're not going to wake up 10 years later and hate themselves for the decisions that they made. And Candace, you may or may not experience this. You may experience having regrets in a few years. You may not. I mean, everybody's different in situations. But it's one of those things where you can't go back in the story. And so it's always better to sort of, and that's the conversations we have with women and the conversations we have with men, where it says, men are only kicking ass in their 30s and 40s if they do the work in the 20s to set themselves up to get there. You don't just magically become this successful guy the day you turn 35, like a lot of people would have you think, just like you don't just magically turn into a pumpkin as a woman the day you turn 30. Your 20s matter and the decisions you make matter. And I think that's a conversation a lot of people are not having. There's this we're in the age of inconsequentialism, where no matter what you do, you're always going to be okay and always be taken care of. And a lot of people are waking up at those ages and they're pissed. So I think that's kind of the conversations we're trying to have, not, hey, you're 30 and you fucked your life up. Sorry for your luck. It says, hey, you may have been told some things that may or may not have been your fault. There's time to turn those things around, and whether you do or whether you don't, it's fully up to you. But here are some things that maybe you go away from this conversation considering if you do find yourself struggling to kind of find that thing or find that guy that you're ultimately looking for.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.